on Monday. The temperature is Sunday night in the mid-upper 40s, cloudy around 60 Monday with a shower and thunderstorms. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
All right, get ready to go into the legal ID to start the show.
It's 6 o'clock. KLAK LP Jonesboro, the Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, is now time for Melaninaire, a show that examines global issues from an African American millennial perspective. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, sponsors, or donors.
Good evening, everybody. You're back to another episode of the Melaninaire Millennial Show. My name is Chelsea Chapman. We're with Dante Barker tonight, Miss Mallory Hill, and we have our special guest, Mr. Dominic Williams. So we will open up with getting a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a graduate student at Arkansas State University. I'm currently in the accelerated nursing program. I love Black people. I love everything about Black people. I like sitting and discussing things that reflect us and reflects how to better and improve our stance in society.
All right, awesome. And I can attest to that. I seen this young man, and I was just like, I gotta know who he is. He was on a live panel that they had up at A-State, and he did an amazing job with Dr. Branch. So we're pleased to have you today. Now you want to go ahead and give us a little bit of history and tell them what today's show is about.
Today's show is about my fave, Black Panther.
Hey, Wakanda forever.
But before we even jump into the movie, we just want to start with a little bit of history about Black Panther, the actual comic, and the superhero. So a little bit about Black Panther. Black Panther first originated in 1966. It was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. It was the very, very first storyline of an African-American superhero. And what's so important about this is that, this is the first time that you actually see an African-American superhero with actual powers. It's not the first time that you actually see somebody Black in comics, but it's the first time that you actually saw someone with superpowers. After that came Falcon and Luke Cage and several others. But it was created in 1966, debuted there. The name of Black Panther, his legal birth name is T'Challa. And in the movie where he was played by Chadwick Boseman. But let's talk about that real quick. What did you guys first know of? Or where's the first time that you actually heard about Black Panther?
Man.
Oh man, I think the first time I heard about Black Panther was on the radio. Charlamagne and the Breakfast Club was talking about it, and they were just talking about, just little bits and pieces of it. And I was just like, okay, I gotta see this. Yeah. I like Chadwick, and I was definitely going to go see this. So yeah, that was the first time I heard about it.
Yeah. So are you familiar with him before the actual movie?
Mm-hmm.
With Black Panther?
Mm-hmm.
I heard from here and there, but I wasn't really knowledgeable about his storyline. But when those previews started to come out last year, I got mad excited.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember the Avengers movie he was in. That was kind of like, whoa, hold on. I mean, I'll be cool and all. But,
like, who was he? Yeah, so some real funny trivia. The actual start of the campaign for Black Panther, the actual movie to come to screen, was started in 1992 by Wesley Snipes.
Blade.
Like, could you imagine, Wesley going from Blade to being Black Panther?
He was his own Black Panther.
Okay.
The 90s Black Panther.
Absolutely. So in 1992, he started the campaign, and here we are in 2018. Finally, we do have Black Panther on big screen realized before us. And it took a lot of work. Some other cool things about the movie itself is that this is the first time that you have a big budget film from Marvel with a black director and a majority all black cast, almost except for maybe a couple of characters or so. But you know, the movie itself, actually getting it to the screen and the historic significance behind it, it was really, really big deal.
I think it's really interesting, and it's really amazing that it made so much money with a big budget behind it, because, you know, such an excuse for not using this in film for so long is that black actors don't, you know, we don't blow a box office. And like, here you go, you know, everybody, you have like 2 white people in this entire movie, and it set records.
Mm-hmm. And I was checking it right before we pulled up.
Yeah.
704 million. With a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
With a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
That is
amazing.
Oof,
We ain't even done with the weekend yet. You know? Ain't even done with the weekend. But, that, you know, just to piggyback on what Dominic said, like, you know, a lot of times they said that blacks could not sell internationally.
Yeah.
And there was a big push internationally for this movie to actually be premiered. You know, and they pushed a lot of marketing behind it. So Black Panther is a big deal. It's a big deal. So another thing about Black Panther is we talk about the fact that Black Panther was filmed in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia is so many things. So many things. It is home for Dante, of course. It's home for Dante, but it's also, you know, a lot of times we like to say that it is the Black Mecca, where a lot of us go to thrive and to live and to just really build. A lot of companies are home to Atlanta as well. But this particular movie itself contributed to the actual budget of the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta alone by hiring so many people right there and locally. In particular, the elder woman from the Merchant tribe. You know, she didn't get into acting until she was 88 years old, and here she is, 91, and blessed with, you know, to play the elder, the grandmother of T'Challa. You know, and here she is, 92, just celebrated a birthday, and here she is in one of the biggest movies of our time. But it contributed in so many ways.
Oh yeah. It was important. You know, it was important for Black people everywhere to see that. You know, but to say that was shot at home, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Shot at home. It do give me a sense of pride. I ain't gonna lie.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we will be back. You guys make sure you stay tuned.
I actually had about 27 more seconds. Remember when the beat changes, that gives you a 30-second countdown. All right, let's go to the Facebook shout-outs. We got Kabila checking in, saying hello, everyone.
Thank you.
And she said Chelsea looking all cute. And Mallory, your sister Bethany, checking in, saying hey, y'all.
Hey.
So when y'all left the break, y'all were talking about the economic impact of the movie and how it was filmed in Atlanta. So let's kind of resume the conversation on that for the people still watching on Facebook. Now what are y'all secretly staring at?
Hey.
Remember the camera's still rolling, so y'all have to keep the conversation going.
Alright, so before break we were talking about how Atlanta was Black Mecca, and also it was amazing also that here we are with Wakanda, this fictional place that is also a Mecca in so many ways. You know, how it's just kind of tied together. I know we'll get into that later, you know, and talking about different things and different roles, but I thought
Mallory, you can still send a PowerPoint. We can load it later.
Okay.
We just didn't catch it in time for the show beginning. Y'all keep the conversation going.
I think it's really interesting how Atlanta was where this place was filmed, because if you just think about the history of Atlanta, like after the Civil War, Atlanta was burned to the ground.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing left.
Yes.
And then you had like these black folks that threw Black people in jail, you know, like re-enslaving them to rebuild Atlanta, you know, and then for it to become have such a history of darkness for us, and for us to like, you know, it just kind of shows like the history of Black people, you know, like we always make lemons out of lemonade.
Yeah.
Shout out to Beyonce.
Exactly.
But, you know,
exactly.
just to come there and it is like a mecca for us. You hear about people like I'm actually planning on this in Atlanta. Georgia just opened up to the compact license, so once I get my RN license, I can practice this.
Hey, yeah, that is amazing.
It is a cool place, man. I just growing up, I always seen Black people doing it. You know, I grew up down the street from the ABC, the Atlanta University Center. So like, I've always I've always like seen us in such, you know what I'm saying? Like I've always seen us on the pedestal.
Yeah.
So I've always felt like, man, there ain't nothing I can do. You know, because like I mean, as long as I can remember, I remember was a black woman.
Right.
Shirley, and her name was the same as my mama. You know what I'm saying? Shirley. Like,
Shirley Franklin.
for real.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. It's hard for me, like, even like to wrap my head around like what that would be like. Because my first introduction to black people was doing like so many amazing things when I went off to college and like came out the Jack Robinson Foundation. That's when I saw black people. Forest City.
Okay.
So, you know, that's when I saw black people like really like out here like striving, like out here like doing you know, yeah, we had like people in Forest City that looked like me that were like really doing great things, but like as a collective, you know, as a collective, like seeing people my age that look like me that speaking 3 or 4 languages, traveling everywhere, you know, building, it was amazing. So to grow with that.
I think that's the huge difference. Like there are places across this country in little pockets, but Atlanta has the collective.
Yeah.
Atlanta has you doing everything. You know what I'm saying? You are the educators.
Yeah.
You are the protectors from, you know, the local government, the doctors, you are the lawyers, you are running corporations, you are the innovators. And I think that's the difference.
It is.
I think that's the difference.
There was nothing like to me like when I look at like when I look at my nephew, you know what I'm saying? I always think like this is the greatest thing for him because like for me, like I watched the video before I saw the movie and I can't remember the dude's name, but at the end of it he was like, where are real life black members? Where are the people who are actually out here like in the community doing stuff? And I was thinking like, man, like the new color, like, you know, like I grew up seeing this, like I grew up experiencing this, like my uncle, like he invested in AT&T and we didn't realize that he had so much off that, you know what I'm saying, until after the fact. But like my grandma always owned their house. Her sisters always owned the house. They own 3 houses all connected to each other. You know, and they shared a backyard and they owned it. You know,
We got a Facebook shout out to Tiffany Mosley.
Hey.
Hey, I just shared it with you.
Okay. All right.
But it's cool to see success. You know what I'm saying? No matter where it is.
Especially when it looks like you.
Man,
Yeah.
for real.
Representation is important. You know, to know that you can do something. It's one thing to hear it, but to actually see it,
Right.
it makes it real.
Right.
It makes it real. But a lot of times, you know, I don't know, it's even real when you can envision it.
Right.
But, you know what I'm saying?
Like my brother said yesterday, he said this is way better than Spider-Man.
God.
You know, it's just like, you know, I don't know if he, well, I don't know. He's
Now.
kind of deep. I don't know if he's looking into it that deep or if it was just on the surface, like, you know. Yeah, so.
To bring this up, Mallory, I know you're a son of a queen. Is Spider-Man, wasn't he eventually black?
I thought he was in Green Lantern is too.
Yeah.
And
I heard they want to make the next Spider-Man black.
yeah, Miles Monroe. He's actually, I mean, not Miles Monroe. Miles he's Hispanic. Black. Marino, maybe.
Yeah.
Marino.
Hey, wow.
Yeah, he brown.
Right.
He brown.
I mean,
Like on the Disney Channel, he was black. He brown.
but I mean, Afro-Latinos, that's a
He
real
is,
identity.
he
Everybody's
is.
in diaspora.
Miles is Afro-Latino. That's what he is.
Right.
I believe that.
And because like my best friend Arnell, you know, she's in Colombia, right?
Yeah.
And so she's talking about like West Colombia, like where all the Afro-Colombians live, because those people we don't think about. There were
She's talking about Cali? Like, is that what she said?
no Colombia, like the
Like what part of
country.
Colombia?
She is in Montes Alves.
Okay.
That's where she's at. But she's talking about. Oh really? That's dope. But she was talking about just like how like the African diaspora there, like how excited they were
Yeah.
for Black Panther and see Black Panther for the premiere. And it's just because we don't, you know, a lot of people don't realize like there were more slaves imported in Brazil alone than there were in the United States. So like we out here, we everywhere.
Do you know in Colombia on May 21st every year they have a celebration ending slavery where the black women take to the streets and they have a braiding competition. It's in Cali, Colombia, and that's what they do. Like they will braid your hair, have the hair provided and everything, but it's on May 21st every year is when they celebrate.
That's so dope.
By having that competition.
I think she's gonna miss that though. I think she's come back like May 8th. Oh, that's so
We're all going to get my hair right.
that's on the bucket list now.
Yeah. You should. I think that is a trip that people should do. It's like go to see places of where our people are, where our culture is. That's why I'm going to the places I'm going to really just because of black people. That's what black folks are. And I just want to see. I want to see.
Huh?
I want to see where they lived in those different cultures.
That's
All right,
the,
we got one more. We got one more song. Lachey says, "Who's that under the black beret?"
Cleopatra Jones.
Cleopatra Jones.
Cleopatra.
That's Dante, I believe.
What are you talking about?
Oh, my bad. The beret, not the skull cap. That's Chelsea. Oh, she says cute Chelsea.
Thank you.
Yeah, I made notes. I had to print this off. I had all kinds of notes. Print this off. Okay, so
Y'all
I'll
have
take
me
all
to
that.
reply.
Okay,
You know I got you, Cleopatra. Yeah, you know I got you.
Okay.
We gonna do a collage today.
Yeah, for real, we
But yeah, this is like like the monetary unit in Wakanda is Wakanda dollars, but a lot of it, comes from vibranium. Like,
So we
I would
ended
you
up
equate that to? That's what I'm saying. Like,
Melon. That's what I equate to. Like, they're just trying to tell us, like, it's in you. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
what I was about to say.
that's
Those
basically it.
like little like when you talk to black people, like they're usually a lot of times they're super wise. You know what I'm saying? But like a lot of times they're wise without knowing it. And so like we exchange that all the time. And so like when we exchange our experiences, that benefits both of us. You know what I'm saying? Because like we're talking about like how I'm from Atlanta and you grew up in St. Louis and you grew up in Florida City and you grew up in Jonesboro. And so when we exchange that, we get rich. You know what I'm saying? Because we take that and like when we go to California or something like that, it's like, okay, I have that experience from Arkansas, Georgia. You know what I'm saying?
Bubble a bit,
DC,
Dante.
New York, and stuff like that. So that's just fun.
Hey, from St. Louis. Shout out, that's where I was born. My family's still there.
Hey,
Vista.
on the loop, man, no problem.
Yeah, but like the difference between the comics and the actual movie is so crazy because they still have the tribes in the comics and everything, but the ape tribe, which is also known as the Jabari in the movie, they were a little different. They were a little bit more violent. They also weren't vegan.
They weren't.
They ate the ape in order to get their powers.
He did say we're vegan. My people are vegan.
Yeah.
So
That's why they call themselves man ape. They believe in the ape god.
so they actually have powers. The Jabari tribe is not.
Those
All right, we got 40 seconds before the rejoin.
Those masks though, the war masks,
Oh yeah.
those were nice. My son said something about those too.
What's that?
That melanin.
I need some water from Solar. I got home about it. Dry throat. All the extra.
5 seconds, y'all.
I do.
We are back. All right, so today we're still talking. Well, we're talking about Black Panther. So right now we're actually going to go into a little bit of the plot. So the movie starts off centuries ago. The meteorite comes and hits the Earth, containing vibranium, and the 5 tribes they come together and they basically confer about what they're going to do with it. Well, the Black Panther is made by drinking the heart-shaped herb, basically.
Yeah.
And so once he's made, they all agree to use Wakanda to develop advanced technology, except for one tribe. The Jabari tribe decides to leave and go to the mountains, correct? Okay. So fast forward 1992. T'Chaka, which is in 1992, who's the current Black Panther, he goes and he visits his brother who was working undercover. Well, he confronts his brother about giving up assisting an arms dealer named Paul with working for T'Chaka, and he confirmed that Angel was actually giving the vibranium to Paul. So, present day, When we see T'Challa on the Black Panther, he's getting the kid, and we all know that was cool seeing when he dropped down out the plane and he swooped down to get it. And so he comes back basically to be crowned king, and for him to be crowned king, he has to be stripped of his Black Panther powers, and he has to be open to be challenged in ritual combat for the throne. Well, he gets challenged by M'Baku, which is the tribal leader of the Jabari tribe. Who favorite part of the movie was that?
That's mine.
Okay. So basically, we come back, fast forward, and Eric, which is everybody know him as Wakanda. Everybody know him as Killmonger. And him and Claw actually get in a Wakandan artifact, which is vibranium from a museum. They get it, and basically during this time, T'Challa ends up beating M'Baku.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, let me rewind on that. Okay, so when T'Challa beat M'Baku, let's talk about that. What was that? What were y'all feeling about that ritual combat when he even got challenged, you know, and he had to fight for that? You know,
I mean, that's real life.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's real life. I feel like I'm not an African American man, but I feel like, you know, just from growing up in St. Louis and East St. Louis metropolitan area, you know, you always hear about people who challenge other people. You know what I'm saying? As far as men go. So I mean, to me, that was real life.
Yeah.
You know, it always your mind reverts back to things that you know and things that you're used to.
Yeah.
So I reverted back to the streets.
The other part about that is, like, you know, M'Baku, who was the king of the Jabari people, he was a traditionalist.
Yeah.
Whereas T'Challa was really, like, you know, he was departing from, you know, who his dad was, and he was trying to just do some different things and just see and find who he was.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, M'Baku was actually challenging just to protect the tradition of the Wakandan people when he did it.
I definitely feel that. I definitely agree. I think it was kind of like symbolism almost. Like, it was kind of like, this is the most advanced society in the entire planet. Like, the most advanced society. But yeah, like the leading of the people, the leading of the society comes down to this competition about brute strength, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think it was kind of interesting to see like those worlds colliding. They're like tradition that might not be the best practice anymore, as we'll see later. But you know.
Yeah, that's true. And like he said, as we'll see later. So we fast forward. T'Challa goes to America. Well, no, he didn't go to America. He went to South Korea to look for Claw. He was told to bring Claw back, dead or alive, by Wakabi, and that's important because he ended up not bringing Claw back. Period.
Yeah.
But Killmonger ended up bringing Claw back, and that's what got him into Wakanda. That's what got him what would you call it? A presence with the king.
Right.
You know, he got to talk to the tribe, and that's where we get our infamous "Hey Auntie" and all that.
Also got him following and support.
True.
Yeah. They go ritual combat, Killmonger versus T'Challa this time. Killmonger ends up quote unquote killing T'Challa, right?
Correct.
T'Challa goes, well, he didn't go. He got led down the river to the to the Jabari tribe. At the time, meanwhile, back in Wakanda, Killmonger is basically becoming. He didn't become the Panther, though, right? He became a Jaguar.
I think was he?
Right.
He became the Black Panther, but yes, according to comics and things, he was
Yeah.
Because his suit was all gold and like
yeah.
And so he ends up becoming the Black Panther and ends up telling them to burn all the flowers down. Well, the kid sneaks in and she snags one of the petals to save for her baby, basically.
Yeah.
So we fast forward. I really just want to fast forward to my favorite part of the movie, the end of the movie where they get to fight.
Yeah.
And everybody's up top, basically, and you have Killmonger, who's basically trying to send vibranium, send these weapons over to any of the Black diaspora all over the planet, you know, to arm them, basically. Whereas T'Challa comes back and he's trying to fight. He's trying to stop that from happening because he sees a different way of arming the people, I guess.
Yeah.
And so they end up fighting. They fall down. They end up continuing their fight down on the railroad. Ends up going deeper to that, you know, and they end up having a moment where T'Challa, he kills, but he doesn't kill Killmonger. He gives him an opportunity to live, and Killmonger chooses to die. So he ends up, you know, taking the sword out of his chest, and he dies. And so that's pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, pretty much, T'Challa decides to arm the diaspora with something else, and we'll get back at that when we come back. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Melaninaire.
She followed the whole ramp up too, though. Yeah.
Hi, I'm
Yeah,
Rosie.
All right, let's see. We got another Facebook shout out. Shout out to Takara Carter. Appreciate you for checking in on our team.
Hey, Miss Carter.
So we switch. What's your name?
Kato.
Because I feel like when you
T.
have a lot
Oh.
to do.
Oh.
Now,
I usually like to do what you
The roll of the youth.
the road.
The address is 1411 Franklin Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
now in Spanish. Uno,
Uno.
cuatro, uno.
Uno.
Yeah, she finally messaged me back on Facebook.
It's
Trying to give me directions. I'm already
Franklin
here.
Street.
spelled like this. F,
F,
R,
R,
A,
A,
N,
N,
K,
K,
L,
L,
I,
E,
N.
N.
Read spelling like that. S,
S,
T,
T,
R,
R,
E,
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 I think you want to travel to places where black people work.
Jonesboro is
What places have you traveled?
Open.
Don't worry.
Just
go from
it.
No.
S,
First, don't forget
O,
No.
Keith Chapman says, Chelsea, your mom says you look like a Black Panther. And Brett Buffer says, Butler says, I love her hat. So I think your hat is the real star of the show tonight.
Rightfully so.
Quattro,
Anyways, first stop Cuba.
Uno.
Yes,
First
yes.
stop Cuba.
I think people wake up soon.
Phone number for the
Plus
request
that high
line is
home
870-277-1086.
And Lachey Robinson sends love across the screen.
Hey.
Cero,
So yeah, we will. I'm doing spring break.
siete,
Yes, right?
siete,
Yeah, that's what's up. This is up.
uno,
Uno,
cero.
I
Zero,
traveled a little bit, but places I went nobody lived like us.
I am Rosie, and
That was
that's why
strange.
you
Yeah, that's strange. I was in Northern Ireland, and like people was like, because they could tell.
Tune
that I
in
was
to
like,
Community Conversations every
American,
Monday
like Black
through
American,
Friday
so
at
that's not
9
nasty,
a.m.
but like,
here on
who's the child in the
KLEK
middle of the
102.5. Join host Quavila Jones
That's
Price
interesting that
she
she
needed to say
Right.
making a
Did you
difference
know we stay
in the
here?
community and
Yeah.
So
It's my concern for it.
So when y'all went to break, Dante, what were you kind of talking about?
Monday through Friday,
I
9
just
a.m.
ended with some
on
other stuff.
KLEK.
Oh, when we come back, we got to get into that stuff. But that was going to be about basically how they both their ideologies.
Oh, you want to
Yeah. Well, the PowerPoint's up. It's just on slide 1.
Yeah. Yeah. One time. Yeah, so that was the first one. That was the first talking point.
I'm glad they didn't put the cape in the movie.
Yeah, because it would have been like.
They wouldn't have been able to fit the necklace.
Nah,
There was a couple of other updates and things that I was kind of glad of, like the fact that they didn't call him Baku mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad they chose not to be like mayonnaise. Like
see, that's the importance of having like black directors. Because a black
Exactly.
director caught that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, black the
It's the importance of also waiting and not having blade.
Y'all go fit doing my boy Blake.
Be like that.
Looks like a deal again.
Yeah.
Because the blade
Shay
is
says I Well, we got a couple shout outs. Keith Hill says who watched season 7, who watched 7 seconds on Netflix, and Lachey says I did. Keith finished the first season already.
I've been
My
seeing
brother?
that on social media. Is it yeah.
But I like this discussion. So, what are some of the other things that you know as differences from the
Oh, hey, Keith.
from the comic as opposed to the movie? Y'all talk about like how the
I thought one thing that was interesting that I didn't know about Black Panther was that he was married to Storm, but that in the movie we didn't. Storm was nowhere to be found. But who said that? Either you, one of y'all said that the character that Lupita played is gonna turn evil towards the child, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look here.
But here's the thing though, like, yeah.
I heard about
So Black Panther, like several other comics, it exists in like parallel universes rather. So the story with Storm was written by, Reginald Hudlin, who did House Party, like the director. You remember the guys running across the street with the little hair dryer on their head, and they had the shoes. Okay, all right, but they had the matching shiny suits in there. But anyways, old guys. Anyways, Hudlin, and he also directed Boomerang and all of those black movies and things. But anyways, he wrote this. But there's also another universe where Ta-Nehisi Coates writes it. That's a little bit different as well. So Black Panther exists in space. So he's not just in Wakanda, but he's actually like colonizing the rest of the world. You see what I'm saying?
He's colonizing?
Yeah, he's a colonizer. He's a colonizer. So there's all kinds of different universes and different things like that. Another difference about the movie from the comic is that Killmonger, like, he continues to challenge him. He doesn't just die off easy like that. And then also with Claw doesn't die. Claw stays around, and M'Baku actually becomes king. He actually like takes over, and it's running things. Yeah, he beats T'Challa. T'Challa continues to be Black Panther, but he's no longer king. Like he's conceded. Yeah. Yeah, he's just, he's just going on being Black Panther. See, the thing is, like, he can be Black Panther, he can be king. But T'Challa is both. There's a difference.
Keith says, hey sis, I wound up cheering for Killmonger with the knowledge he was dropping.
Yeah.
So do y'all want to get to that discussion now on which one y'all like better, or save it for next hour?
We got to push the board again.
We can click the PowerPoint
right.
one more time. Andy? We got it's going to be some art, I think. All right, let's talk about Ryan Coogler a little bit, y'all.
Bluebell Station.
Right.
Emotionally involved and engaged. I, for one, can say I was emotionally involved. I was definitely there for Wakanda, with Wakanda. I was a Wakanda. I was there for that. Like the first day that I seen it, you guys, I was crying. All right,
Lachey has a question. Do you think there'll be a Black Panther Part 2?
Yeah. They said 2021 or 2022.
They've already, like, the CEO of Disney already said that, like, he's interested in getting of course. I mean, it's based on
Kendrick Lamar said he wants to play a villain.
Yes, that'll be dope. That'll be hot.
Yeah, there's gonna be a part 2.
Yes, okay.
They've got to be able to, take advantage of the rest of those characters,
right,
and show their stories. Yeah, but Ryan Coogler is doing his thing.
He definitely is.
He's doing his thing at 31. At 31. I'm almost 31. Cool. But him and Michael B is 31 as well, right? I think, yeah. Go ahead. But that is. You can look at it.
Okay, on PowerPoint.
Yeah, we can use the PowerPoint to talk about it.
All right.
It's just a picture.
Yeah.
Look like he's got a little slick Black Cougar suit on. That's why
Black Cougar. Black Cougar.
Oh, but that's a good point about him being, the Jaguar. You notice how his suit itself and, has the gold flecks in there. But you know how Black Panther is like, they're not solid black as well.
Yeah, they have spots.
They have spots. Yeah. And it's kind of like what he had.
And it's like if you look
Killmonger had them. Exactly. Killmonger had those spots.
Aren't Panthers just black jaguars? Like,
basically.
Yeah, like they're the same like species.
They cousins. Get it? They cousins. That's kind of dope. But they started comparing Ryan Coogler to Spielberg with the way that Spielberg released several movies when he was around that age. He's got the Jaws. Yeah, I remember Jaws. Jaws was crazy. I was scared of Jaws as a kid. But you got E.T. that he released as well at a young age. There's several of him. And then on top of that, you got Jurassic Park. They came from Spielberg. So they're kind of saying, Ryan Coogler is about to hit that stride just like that.
Because this made as much. They were comparing this box office to that Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and he is a mover and a shaker. Can't but applaud his success.
One thing I've noticed is that he's flipped. He's like more than doubled pretty much all of his budgets, right? Like Fruitvale, what was next after that? Like he pretty much doubled.
Fruitvale,
Creed, yeah, he made double. You know what I'm saying? What they put into it. That's man.
Yeah.
I remember watching Fruitvale Station. That was
tough.
Yeah, that was.
I can.
Yeah, like the first time I couldn't even get through it either. It was tough.
I had my man.
Look, I'm still getting like, ooh.
right.
Like for real though, just thinking about that.
We had a whole like section of that in class, and we had to go through. We had to watch like the actual videos of them when they were on the BART train. It was,
yeah, that is crazy.
Go ahead.
It's just trauma. That is trauma.
All right. So what do y'all have on the next slide?
That's just the part I thought was super dope.
I like that.
I like that too.
All right now.
All right, Chadwick.
Chadwick, I've been a fan of Chadwick Boseman since he played Jackie Robinson.
Okay. He done played almost every black person. He done played every
He like who was it? Angela Bassett.
She played Tina.
Yeah, no Oscar. You better not do Chadwick like that.
Right.
Now, take you read off
Got a whole.
So one more.
Okay.
Okay.
From Boseman.
Black. Okay. Cause we got about 40 seconds before we go back.
The film's blackness is inseparable from its appeal. Some black actors will say, "I don't want to play black character just because he's black," he says, and that's great. But I'm not saying they're wrong. But that's missing all the richness that's been whitewashed.
Hey.
I thought that was pretty deep.
Yeah.
He played that role.
He did.
He played that
Yeah.
forever. The Panther. You know what I'm saying? Forever the king.
Like this is so different from the other ones too, though.
Yeah.
Bethany Hill sends a lot of love symbols. Lachey says Creed was better than all the Rockies. Can't wait for Creed 2. Keith Hill says you forgot about the color purple. Also Spielberg.
Yes.
I did not know
Yes.
that.
You cannot forget about the color purple. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, bro.
All right, guys. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are going to get right into it with the role of youth in society. In Black Panther, we see a lot of millennials.
Hey.
We see a lot of millennials. We're going to get back into millennials, but we're going to talk about one of my favorite, if not, I think maybe my most favorite, is Shuri in the movie. She was T'Challa's 16-year-old sister. She's played by Miss Letitia Wright. In the movie, she uses vibranium, and she's very, very innovative with that. I was surprised to see a lot of the things that she made, and she said, Ryan Coogler said that he thought it would be really interesting to see an African teenager who's manipulated vibranium in ways that no one else could, and who's confident and able to have her own space.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really neat that they did. They definitely gave her own space, and I feel like she definitely utilized it. So what were some of you guys' favorite inventions by Miss Shuri in this movie?
Her inventions?
Yeah.
Man, the one where, like, I can only explain it, where, like, how she could basically hop in the car and drive the car.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And,
yeah.
like, it would form, like, when he threw it on it, like, when
Yeah.
she ran out and threw it up, and she hopped in the car, and it just, man. And she created that.
Yeah, mine's with those little things that they threw down in those trucks, and it just made the power just pop. Everything just shut down.
And those little beads, what are they called? When he stopped, like stabilized the agent. What were those beads called? Those are dope. And just like healthcare advances too.
Yeah.
Because they were like, bullet wounds don't magically disappear, and in Wakanda they do. You know, like Wakanda just out here thriving because of shit. You know.
But for me, like I think the most important, in my opinion, was the suit. The suit, and it was hidden in the necklace, and then the fact that it absorbs everything that comes against it. So the next time he's faced with it, guess what? it's bouncing off of them. Like,
Yes.
can you imagine, like, if you were just out there running these streets and, you know, rain, you know, coming, you know, if I had a vibranium suit right now, I'd be walking down the rain all day long, not even caring, because it's just gonna bounce off me. Snow, you name it, whatever. Cars, I'm not gonna let them stop. I'm gonna keep walking.
Don't stop. You gonna flip that.
The car gonna bounce. You know what I'm saying? So that was really, really, really dope in my opinion.
Yes, and to me, it's a big deal to me because we got to see a Disney princess.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody knows that, but we got to see a Disney princess. I feel like in a new light. She was innovative. She was smart. She was, my word for the day, cultivating. She was out here being a mover and a shaker.
And she was trying to move and shake him off when he was at the end. When he was trying to fight, she would line him up with them little arm things. She would get.
And speaking of Killmonger, let's kind of get into an old African proverb that we found to be interesting. It's the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to see its warmth. And I like to feel its warmth, actually. So what do you guys think about how T'Challa was? He was so passionate about them leaving his child. You know, how do you guys feel that relates to real life now with how a lot of people would say Killmonger was angry? A lot of people would say Killmonger was not angry. So what's your view on that?
Well, just like for psychological development, like your childhood plays a huge role in the rest of your life. You know, like you have people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or people who are even older who are still trying to come to terms with what happened in their childhood, or like how they were treated. So I think that's why T'Challa was hurt a lot. You know, because if you think about the movie, he was really frustrated with his father that it wasn't even the fact that he killed his brother, it was that he left.
Yes.
That he left Eric, you know? And I think that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes about like children and how vulnerable they are and how precious they are, because they can either grow up to burn the village down or they can make the village greater luxury, you know?
Yeah.
And like when T'Challa's dad died, he was a grown man. You know, so he was able to take everything that he had learned from his dad and to like continue and to grow and to cultivate himself, you know, into who he felt like he should have been. Eric didn't have it. You know what I'm saying? His dad had died so young that he didn't have enough to take away from him. And so from what he did take away from him was Wakanda, and they killed my dad. You know what I'm saying? And really those were the biggest things that stuck out to him. But that happened as a kid. So he had a lifetime to cultivate that, and that showed in his body. He literally, he marked up his body because, that was lifetime. That was that. From what happened
he literally cultivated anger from the murder of his father, from the trauma that was inflicted upon him.
But it wasn't even just like the murder of his father. It was like the environment that he grew up in. And I think that's what Kubrick also wanted to put in the forefront. Because it was the inner city. Because even he had made, when he was talking to his father, you know, his father hated that he had left him, that he even never brought him to Wakanda in the first place, because he was like, you know, death is just another thing. It's something that happens around here every day. So why do I cry? And I think that's something that was really important, even though it was like a very brief moment in the movie. It just showed like the trauma that living in certain like these neighborhoods, these disenfranchised neighborhoods, can have on Black youth.
Absolutely. And I also took away the point, the fact that when he asked him, he was telling him, you know, you were the king. Weren't you trained your whole life to do this? When he went and he seen his father, he was asking him, weren't you trained your whole life to do this? Isn't this what you were, you know, basically your childhood was. You were trained up as a king. You know, and that I took that away from, that was powerful. Because if you don't put that into your child, they're going to do that. They're going to run that village now.
Even to the point that when, you know, when Eric went to the spirit world, his vision started as him as a grown man, but then he immediately reverted back to his childhood. You know, to when his dad was speaking to him and he was just getting emotional, he reverted immediately back to a young man. Whereas, you know, T'Challa immediately, you know, he stayed in his adult form. You know, he was able to converse and just dialogue and, you know, go through that as an adult. So,
absolutely. All right, well, you all make sure that you stay tuned, and we're going to come back and hit you all with some more of our opinions on Black Panther.
All right, Lachey says, since seeing Black Panther, it stirred something in all of us. I feel like it made us reevaluate our relationship with the youth and the community. I'm afraid it's going to fade out. How do we keep this momentum going?
That's a good question.
I'm not really sure, like, if Blackness and Black youth is anywhere on, you know, about to fade out. So, I mean, if you just think about it, I mean, But this is kind of like a very interesting time in history. I think it can be comparable to even like the Harlem Renaissance. You're seeing an explosion of like black culture, black literature, black art, black education.
Renaissance.
Yes. And that's what I said. And I honestly, and I really do stick by that, y'all. I honestly believe we are living in a renaissance. Like we are living in that moment. You know what I'm saying? We're living in a moment where our kids are going to tech expos. You know what I'm saying? They're teaching people how to work, how to do it. You know what I'm saying? And that's us. Like, man, we are living, man, like the stuff that we're creating. You know, Black Panther, we having a whole show right now. We are having a whole show on us. You know what I'm saying? Like that man, like.
And it's just like I remember what David Banner told you. Responsibility, Lachey. That's how we'll keep this going because we have to walk away with it's not just a movie. It was we all walked away with something from that movie. So take what we learned from that movie, what we go through in our everyday life, what we want to put into our children, all those different types of things. It's our responsibility to let everybody continue to feel this warmth from the village. We're the village, so that's my answer. Responsibility is how we keep this movement going. Black Panther ain't the first. It ain't the first movement now. Right. This just gave us some more wind beneath our wings. Right. A little fire under our feet. You know. So
and with that, Lachey says, "Hey."
Yeah, I so agree with that. I think the other thing that's coming of this is that. You know, you got a generation of kids that have grown up, like I said, with a black president. And seen,
and Marilyn, not to cut you off, but actually we have a Facebook comment related to that. Derica May says, living through Obama's presidency and Black Panther, it's lit.
Right. Right. So they're seeing themselves in ways that, you know, African Americans or people that are descendants of slavery have not seen themselves. So it's different. It's a different thing. It's all new, and we're still going to continue to thrive from it. I don't feel that that's going to change. You know.
I know. Like Obama's presidency, like you said, like people haven't seen themselves in this. Like I remember when I first started to unlearn anti-blackness and start to love black people and everything. Is when I was talking to my granddad. We were watching Obama's State of the Union, and he was like, he turned over, and my granddad's 92 now, and he turned over and he was like, did you ever think you'll see a black president? And me, I was like, I don't know, like 13. I was like, yeah, of course. I thought one day would happen, and he was like, I never, in my wildest dreams. So it just shows that you see all these pictures of these black kids dressing up and looking at I just saw a picture today of a 2-year-old looking at the portrait of Michelle Obama and she was called her a queen. It's just a representation.
It's kind of like how you poked the bear for so long. Now you done woke up the beast. And they got to just take over and just doing stuff. So that's how I kind of feel about it. After so long of, our people in this country have faced so much oppression, and now that we're finally getting to see and being, realize of who we are.
Let me get to this Facebook comment from Kabila right quick. It says, I have a 20-year-old who also has a bunch of friends who couldn't care less about blackness or culture. How do we reach those or those that are not in college or have strong representations of themselves in their community?
I think it goes to meeting people where they are. I think that a lot of times I think with us, we have different ways of reflecting what it means to be black and black culture. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that in a lot of ways that when we look at people that they don't really fit you know what I'm saying, our mold, we don't really see that representation, we automatically disconnect that. But I do think that we do have to realize that our culture permeates in everything.
Yes.
And that him and his friends, they more often than not, if you pay attention to the things that they do and the things that they listen to, they are, most of the time, they pretty much are wrapped up in the culture. It's just that in a way that isn't traditional. You know what I'm saying? And so to flip that into something that's positive, we have to understand how to meet them where they are.
And Keith Hill says that culture is now Migos.
but
that's my brother here in Atlanta. He be a buddy. King. We see you. You listen to culture too right now, aren't you? Stir fry.
But for real, that's just my opinion. I think that at the end of the day, I think that it permeates in everything.
Yeah.
And that even when we don't really see the connection, it really does. It in everything that they look at and everything that they listen to, most of the time, Yeah, you know, the people that they look up to.
40
they gotta
seconds.
be in the culture.
For the rejoin.
Yeah,
I had to move the break up because so we didn't miss the topic or it not be dropped.
yeah, they paying attention to the culture.
Mhm.
It just looks differently.
Yeah.
You know, culture for us, like, you know, we got to get out of the mindset that being black and blackness is a monolith,
Mhm.
and that it all looks the same. Your blackness, I still love it, even though it's different from mine. I
For real.
appreciate your blackness,
For
you know,
real.
and that's the mindset that we've got to be able to take on that,
For real.
you know, because somebody may be a little bit more Afrocentric, and some of them may just be, you know.
Mhm.
All right, y'all.
Fever.
You ready to come back? Well, that would be me.
Still black.
That would be me, be Urkel, by the way.
I love the variety and it's good music.
Well,
Now back to Melaninaire. KLEK, 2.5 FM.
and we're back.
Oh, hey, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the role of youth in society. And we talked about how, you know, Shuri, how she was and how she was so innovative and so young, 16, and so sure and so confident of herself and created so many wonderful things. Well, now we want to just kind of get into the battle between Eric and T'Challa. You know, they fought very, very, very hard with each other. They had two fights. The first fight that they had was when, you know, Eric came home because he was, you know, Wakandan descent. He came home to actually challenge the legitimacy of T'Challa. So let's start there and talking about that fight. What were your thoughts when Eric came home with Claw at that moment?
How dare you? Yeah, how dare you tell us the kid?
I felt so many different types of ways, like so many different types of ways, because I kind of felt like where he was coming from, you know, like I don't know, it was an emotional roller coaster, because just like you wanted to identify with him, and like you saw like that he had did something for Wakanda, you know, and at first I thought that he was like trying to do this like to come home and like to try to be a part of his people, which I did not like the fact that he sacrificed a black woman to reach his goal, which is something that we should talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was really not feeling it when he was challenging T'Challa, you know. But that's just because I just hold a special place in my heart for Chadwick Boseman. So
I wasn't feeling it either, and it's crazy that you said that about him sacrificing a black woman, especially when she was at the hands of someone else. You know, she felt that was her boyfriend.
She
you know,
needed
that
his
was supposed to
protection.
be, she was looking to him for that protection, but he was the one who actually took her life, and that did play a big part to me too. And I was just kind of like, you know,
she was right.
Michael, why?
She was right to die. And it took a while because I was staying away from critiques of Black Panther because it was the first time I was able to enjoy a movie like just enjoy it all.
Right.
So I was trying my best, but I couldn't. One popped up and I had to read it, and it did talk about the misogyny of Eric Killmonger, you know, and that is a problem in like our society, like Black society here, you know. And I think that was intentional. I think that was intentional because if you look at most of the violence that he inflicted before he got to Wakanda, and once he got to Wakanda, most of it was directed toward Black women.
Yeah. And then from there, you know, Eric, in his fight with T'Challa and his reason for coming home, you know, immediately he's like, you know, you have all of this, you have, you know, this nice home, you grew up nice, you know, I didn't have this, I grew up poor, you know, and I'm part of this family too. So his main reason for fighting is wanting to share what Wakanda had with the rest of the world, and wanting to be able to, you know, not only to set the rest of our Black folks free, because that's who he was fighting for. He was fighting for our Black folks, but wanting to share those resources with him. And we just want to kind of get into the background behind that, you know, how T'Challa felt versus what Eric felt on that. And a lot of times in thinking about the different, you know, viewpoints of Eric and T'Challa, you know, sometimes you can compare it to Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X, because both of them actually fought to help us become free as far as Blacks in America, help us towards our liberation, help us out of the segregation, help us out of the inequalities and different things. And they both had different viewpoints and different ways to go about it. So what's your thoughts on that?
One thing that I did like about that, and I did like what they depicted in the movie, was Black men compassion.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of times I feel like they just always put our Black men out here to be hard and, you know, non-loving, and that's false. I grew up my whole life with a father who was very T'Challa. Okay, so I did. I like that, and I also liked how they showed a black man. Cause I don't know. Maybe y'all can update me or tell me if I missed something. But where was his mother? They just said that he fell in love with an American woman. Yeah, a black man taking care of his son by him.
That is true. That's true.
So,
That's true.
Shout out.
That
Yeah.
that's interesting. I didn't even. That's interesting.
To the point of the battle, the ideological battle. I will say that I think I agree more with T'Challa's way of going about it. And the reason being is because, I understand what Killmonger was doing, how he wanted to arm, them. He wanted to arm the black diaspora with resources, and things that'll free them. But T'Challa's way of doing it was putting these education centers in neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So basically that's saying that I'm giving you something that nobody can take away from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas if I give you this gun, yeah, you can be on top for a second, for a while, but eventually they're going to figure out how it works and they're going to get it. You know what I'm saying? And then that's going to breed the same cycle that's been bred the whole time. Violence. Violence begets violence. You know what I'm saying? And so, whereas T'Challa is saying, if I can put you on another plane, if I can educate you to the point of vibranium, you know what I'm saying? If I can elevate your vibranium, you know what I'm saying? For real, above, you know what I'm saying, what they're giving you, then where does that put you versus if I just gave you a weapon? You know what I'm saying? A more high-tech weapon.
Exactly.
I think I just think he was definitely necessary though. He was a revolutionary, and revolutionary is necessary. Revolution is necessary because T'Challa honestly didn't really know what he believed in. He had no idea. And if it wasn't for like Killmonger's revolution and his like force behind that, making him think, he would have never stepped outside of tradition and started helping the world.
He accelerated the process.
That's true. That's very true.
He accelerated the process.
That's true.
T'Challa was sitting there and he's trying to figure it out, and the kid had already started in the beginning, like, hey, maybe we should do this. He's like, I ain't sure, but we'll see though. And the Killmonger just let him know we gonna do this, and he's like, you know what? Maybe we got another way of doing it.
And that's interesting that you brought up Nakia too, because there are parallels in the characters between Nakia, T'Challa, Okoye, and M'Baku.
Yes.
And that's gender roles, between the male and female characters. So we'll get into that when we come back. Stay tuned.
Hey.
That was a tight tie-in.
All right, Kabila had a comment. Keith, I can agree. My son and I have so many conversations, and all he wants is material things. I try to talk about building for the future and other relevant topics. So I think that kind of goes to her earlier comment about her son and friends who don't care about blackness. I think what she's saying here is they only care about the material things. So.
So but that goes back to meeting where they are. If he cares about material things, what can I do to put you on the mindset of turning that into something positive? So if you like shoes, do you like to draw? If you like clothes, or you like jewelry, what about jewelry do you like? Go research a diamond. Right. Tell me what it's made of. Tell me how it's made. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. And so I think that we can use those things to make it good, because at the end of the day, even in Black Panther, the Wakandas, they had on jewelry. You know what I'm saying? They cared a lot in their material things. Yeah. It's just that they went a certain way about it. And I think that that's the important thing. I think that once we meet each other where we are and identify where we're going with things like that, then it'll be a bigger, a better connection.
The thing about material things is like, once again, it's not with, outside of the spectrum of who we are in our culture as well. Mm-hmm. We dress nice. Mm-hmm. We wear the finest, and we have the finest of things. We have the finest homes. We adorn ourselves, and that is something that is known across the entire spectrum of blackness. Mm-hmm. Like, it was even shown in the movie, like you said, with the merchant with the lip plate. Mm-hmm. You saw how he was dressed with those matching suits, and he changed the plate out. So that, like got on that green suit with that green plate that's really blinging with the gold and everything, but But like you said, you do have to meet them where they are. You know, if the material things are their thing, you know, let's dig into it.
Yeah.
Dig into it.
Because I mean, like when I researched like ancient, you know, African civilizations, most of them they made their money. I mean, the richest man in the world was an African king who made his money off of gold, you know, diamonds and stuff like that. That was used for jewelry. You know what I'm saying? So like, I mean, it was the way that they used it, and a lot of that stuff they did use it for meaning. You know, they put it on stuff that exists even today. You know, stuff that they created that exists today, and it was just the way that they saw it, and the way that they viewed it, and the way that they met, you know, those material things. You know
All right, we got some more Facebook shout outs. Tiffany Banks, Derica Mays, Brandy Williams, Shay Robinson, Sonia Hunter, Demetria Joy Keels, Takara Cotter, and Tiffany Mosley.
He did train though.
It's broad, meaning it's
I think he trained to do that. I thought he was going different way, but yeah.
All right, Kabila says he needs people like you in his life. That's my point. He's at the age where there are not many, if any, mentor groups catering to his age group.
What's that?
20.
I mean,
oh, Mallory broke out the glasses now, y'all.
I was thinking about the man with the plate.
Play a plate.
I think it's so interesting that you brought that up, like with culture, because that's something I even thought about, like how like there's just like a culture thing to like want to adorn yourself too. I also think it's interesting though that I think it's something worth commenting on that a lot of times Black youth don't have the luxury to just be youth and like worry about material things, you know? Because a lot of times like we want them to be conscious of the society of this world that like really means them no harm. But sometimes they do just want to be kids, you know. They do just want to like worry about like what they're wearing and clothes, you know.
There is a little bit of our culture, you know, especially with when Jay's dropped, we the first ones there, and everything like that. So I think some parts of it are there. I think it's just I don't know that it's for them. It's for the
All right,
parents.
we're hitting the top of the hour, so we'll be going back live shortly.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is.
Hello, Jonesboro. This is your office to root with your KLEK 102.5.
Oh, that's the 90s hour.
Around 60, mixed variable winds. A weather system coming in for the west Sunday night and Monday with clouds and showers, maybe a thunderstorm on Monday. The temperature Sunday night in the mid to upper 40s, and it'll be around 60 Monday with the showers and thunderstorms. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK.
Hey, Bethany.
Lead to a plan by the U.S. to impose tariffs on European steel and aluminum imports. British Prime Minister Theresa May has set out her vision for what the UK's relationship with the EU could look like after Brexit. And severe winter weather continues to pound parts of Europe, with over 50 deaths reported so far.
It's 7:03. KLAK-LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Melaninaire, the show that examines global issues from an African American millennial perspective. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, sponsors, or donors.
Go.
Hey, we are back. Okay, so last time we ended up talking about the ideological battle between Eric Killmonger and T'Challa. We kind of went over the way that they saw things and their goals for, I guess, the Black diaspora, and how Eric Killmonger's idea was arming the Black diaspora, whereas T'Challa's was, Eric's was arming them with weapons, T'Challa's was arming them with intelligence.
Those headphones aren't
mental resources, I guess. So now we actually want to get into gender roles throughout the movie, and we ended up talking about how Nakia and Okoye are actually reflective of two other male characters, which are T'Challa and M'Baku. And just to set that off a little bit, just to give y'all a little surface, I guess. Nakia's idea which was the same as Killmonger's actually. She was for going out using Wakanda's resource to save, to protect, and to help the black diaspora, right? T'Challa's idea was he was a traditionalist, but he eventually got to the point where he wanted to send out those resources. Okoye was a traditionalist. She was all for the throne. Wakanda needs to stay as it is and how it was. Basically, she felt like we should keep these resources here. Y'all don't be playing with what we got, what we got established.
Right.
M'Baku, same way. But M'Baku was a little bit more of a traditionalist because he felt like that we shouldn't even be making all these advances. We're doing this for no reason. We don't need all these trains. You know what I'm saying? We don't need all this for no reason. And so that was kind of you had Okoye and the M'Baku traditionalists versus the T'Challa and the Nakia progressive, progression, I guess. So what did y'all think about that? Give me your thoughts on that.
I think Nakia was actually one of my favorite characters. Because she started off the movie rescuing girls from Boko Haram, and then also saving a child soldier. I mean, I think she is like a really like a unsung hero in like all like the social media hype, because she saved Wakanda. She saved Wakanda. I think it's interesting like as far as like gender roles, they're almost non-existent in Wakanda. I mean, you have a female general, you have Nakia who's a spy, I think it really kind of blurs the lines, and I think it kind of speaks a lot of how like a lot of times and like because those gender roles are kind of I know it's like a fictional place, but just because those gender lines are kind of blurred, you don't see a lot of like violence or like misogyny in their society. Like they respect women, like men, like there are men and women sitting in the governing council, And I think that speaks a lot, because a lot of times, like in African societies, you see a lot of them were matriarchal. Like the gender roles in African societies were completely different, and so then you have like here where we're trying to like emulate like European gender roles and try to put them like on our culture when they never worked for us. They never worked for us. They didn't work for us during slavery. They didn't work for us like in the civil rights, and they're not working for us now.
Right. And to his point, I don't know if anybody noticed, but Nakia was a contender for the throne if she wanted to. If she wanted to, she could have challenged T'Challa for the throne, and it would have been perfectly okay. So
she was. That's kind of funny you did mention that. There are no gender roles, but everyone worked. Everyone played a part, and they all worked and depended upon one another. It's collective working responsibility as part of the community in order to make the community stronger. But it's interesting, in the parallels there that, Okoye, even with her traditionalist, feeling in that, my role here is Dora Milaje. I am protecting Wakanda. That was what her whole vibe was. Wakanda said we're going to give those vibranium weapons to the Americans. Well, guess what? She's going to fight on behalf of the Wakandan interests, regardless of how she felt personally. In the same way with M'Baku, if Jabari tribe said today we're going to save T'Challa, guess what? He's going to go with it because his tradition states that what my tribe does, what my people want, that's who I'm supporting, my people. Whereas Nakia and T'Challa, they were progressive and they were trying to move it forward and even thinking about other, ideas outside the box. So when I think about those gender roles, it's or about their roles in general, that's kind of dope how they pair up like that. Then you can really see the connection.
Exactly.
When watching.
Exactly. And like y'all said, like that parallel, like it allowed for that blur. It really did. And the Dora Milaje, man, I'm telling you right now, I may run up on anybody from Wakanda but a Dora Milaje. She got a y'all woman. You know what I'm saying? She got them hands.
I need them to be friends.
For real. They got them hands. For real.
They got them. They got them, and they was known for them. That is crazy.
And they ain't let nobody distract them either, because Okoye almost killed her boyfriend. What was his name? For Wakanda.
Everybody knows.
Man,
everybody died.
One thing, and then what I noticed was when Killmonger at the end, he just thought he was gonna fight everybody. The Dora Milaje, they hopped out there. He killed one of them. They was like, "What? We back at it." When they got flew off, who hopped out there? Nakia, straight up 1-on-1. Let's do it. We got you. When she got flew back, who fights? Sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were not playing with it. They were not playing.
Back to when you said like Nakia almost was Shuri. You remember when she was pretending like she was gonna challenge?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that
For real.
Yeah.
For real.
Like the throne is open to like women and men. You know?
It does not matter because anybody has strength. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that.
Anybody can get it.
For real. For real.
We got the pants with Honda.
Wakanda forever.
Man, but yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I like that. I like how they showed the strength of black women and the unity between the black woman and the black man. You know what I'm saying? And how that works and how that can help us. You know what I'm saying? In the long run by so much. And so when we come back, we will get into the significance of the last fight and then a few more things. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Melaninaire on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Man, I was stressed. It was 5:30 and I was like,
So I already know because I had been at
Wanna go
school
through
and I didn't see
All right, so yeah, what slide to go
It
to?
was like 5:30. I was like, but I didn't even think of like he had messaged me or anything. But
Yeah.
you're here.
Look at
I
Lupita.
love her.
Look at Lupita. So versatile and just
have you seen that Lupita can make anybody look like they're in love?
yes, I saw
Oh my
that.
Yeah.
She can.
Like,
I
She
know.
was on Michael B. Jordan. I was like, okay, it's quite enough.
I get back to it.
Who wants to read Morgan?
Oh,
Read us some Lupita.
What? I can't see that. Nobody contacts me.
I read it.
In right now.
All right, so it says we were creating aspirational world where African people are in charge of their own destiny, and that really appealed to me and had the little girl inside of me jumping for joy. To just have African people, Black people, at the center of the narrative is so exciting.
yeah. And that's what we were talking about too. We're talking about how we're behind the story. We're writing it, we're directing it, we're producing it, we're picking the music for the soundtrack.
Hey.
We got the outfits, how we get our hair done,
Yes.
Ruth Carter.
the makeup,
Jim Carter gives.
all of it. If we're
Steve
figuring
Ballmer
it out, the narrative, it is going to be.
Except for other Black movies here.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
speaking of African people being in charge of our destiny, y'all see what's going on in South Africa?
Yeah,
Man.
taking that land back.
I'm
That's
all
Wakanda
for it.
forever, like for real.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Because they're less than 10% of the population, but they own 72% of the land in South Africa.
Yeah.
So, I was in a Facebook fight about that last night. But it's whatever.
I mean, that's crazy though. They just all of a sudden say, you know what? We don't get his back. You know, give me back my, 48 minutes of the that you owe me, running past me my money and my land. Like, could you imagine that happening here if the Native Americans just popped off?
That's why they got these people shook here, because they can see themselves in them shoes. And
16.
so, like when my Facebook fight yesterday, she was like,
crazy.
"Are you gonna give your house to Native American?" I was like, "Look, sis, that was you. My ass doesn't have nothing to do with the colonization. All right." So, and while you hit it, give me my reparations.
They in Georgia too, them little islands, them seafoam islands. They got on Georgia. Do your history research. Them 4 acres and a mule out there in Georgia and South Carolina, y'all.
So when we going to Savannah?
When we going to Georgia?
But no, man, that's just crazy to me that's going on in South Africa. Like, not to say it's inspiring, but it really is. The fact that people are actually taking their lives into their own hands and righting the wrongs of history. You know?
Because up until the 90s, I think it was the 90s, that was even illegal for Black people to own land in South Africa. Like, it was like extraordinary cases of disenfranchisement. Yeah. So
we might have to get on apartheid one day.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah.
We should.
Apartheid and South African water crisis and all of those things.
Man, if you just that's
Yeah.
all like lasting effects of colonization. I mean,
Yeah.
like Africa is destabilized like due to colonization, like even like genocides that happened in Rwanda are traced back to like European involvement.
Yeah, it's true. Right. But it's kind of like, what Shuri said. You remember when Agent Ross popped up on her? Like colonizer. But it's amazing to think of a country that has never been, taken by others, never been captivated or, they are still intact from their original culture. They are thriving and surviving without anybody's interference. You know, could you imagine
Dominic,
what would have been like for
we
us?
just followed you, so you already followed. So,
Oh, appreciate it.
all right, so we're following you back.
You know, could you imagine like what that would be like? You know,
Glorious.
yeah.
I just think that like, man, we were never, you know what I'm saying? We ain't supervised. You know what I'm saying? We're not about people. Like, we are all about a culture. You know what I'm saying? We're all about cultivating culture.
Yeah.
Cultivating spirituality. Cultivating art. You know what I'm saying? Cultivating languages. Cultivating.
Cultivating.
We're all about
Thank you for that.
cultivation. And, like,
Miss Chelsea.
Miss Chelsea.
Yeah, Miss Chelsea.
Miss Jones.
Yeah.
Miss Cleo. Miss
Cleo.
Cleo.
I have.
But I mean, that was never our, you know what I'm saying, towards each other.
Yeah.
That's never been who we are. You know what I'm saying? And as long as we are trapped in a system that benefits off war,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like we'll struggle.
Yeah.
We won't struggle. And that goes for everybody. You know, as long as we're trapped in a system that cultivates war, you know what I'm saying? It cultivates animosity, cultivates fear.
Yeah.
We could create a Wakanda in America if we wanted to. You know what I'm saying? But it's just fear. Fear is literally the thing that keeps us back.
And people gotta stop thinking that being African American is a disadvantage. Like, I remember one time I had a white friend in high school. She just asked me one day, like, isn't that a disadvantage to you? Like, sure. And to me, if it's a disadvantage, it's the most advantaged disadvantage you could ever have, because I mean, it's like, you know, since we don't know where we're from, really, and there's so many shades and variations of us, it's almost like we're the most rich because we just embrace all of it, you know?
And like, to me, you know, in my head, I always think of like, I know people like to talk about like, you know, African American versus Africans and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But to me, man, like when I see anybody like wherever you were born, like my brother, you know what I'm saying? Like for real, it don't matter what language, like where you was born, what land you was born on, like the Black Canadians in Nova Scotia, you know what I'm saying, to the Colombians and the Cubans, like.
I told you I like seeing that Afro-Cuban woman here just a month and a half ago. When we reach out, we got the same color hair and we touch our puffs and they the same. Like, you know, a year over here in Cuba, you like, yo, this is my sister right here. You know, we may not speak the same language, but we still recognize the kinship. That's amazing.
That's what Arnell was telling me about, and like it almost brought me to tears when she was telling me about this. But she was like, when she's in West Africa, she was like, we're so different. Like the Afro-Colombians there are so different than Black people, but yet we're so similar. Like we have so many similarities. And the last time that we were together, we're either on that boat or back in Africa. So that means like those similarities trace back to Africa. And she was like, it's the first time that she felt such a connection. You know?
Man,
That's what I said.
You didn't
Wow.
think about that?
Wow.
Said the last time we were together was on that boat.
On that boat.
Or in Africa. It's amazing.
You are now.
Yes.
I
Wow. To come on back.
Right.
Like we met her right before she left. Like right on the man.
And that's man.
That's on another level.
It is. It is.
Quick thing. See all the
Okay, Michael.
I don't need no introduction.
He don't need no
I don't need no introduction. Click it. You can keep going. Just my show.
You know what's interesting about her though? Dana, is that she's actually a playwright too, and she played on Walking Dead. And Lupita starred in one of her plays. I know.
Really? Yeah.
Like they were all connected on that set. Like it was like a family reunion. Like I would have just loved to just sit there.
Have y'all seen any of they like raps?
Yeah.
Baby, Baby Underbite?
Baby Underbite, yes. Girl, yeah.
And she played in Black Mirror. Did y'all see her at
the
Black
Black
Museum?
Museum episode.
That's what he was telling me about.
And when they talked about even his, they talked about the 15 million, the 15 million, the skit that Daniel Kaluuya was in Black Mirror.
Oh yeah,
Connected, like,
yeah.
Man.
It's crazy.
Keep going.
Mhm.
Let me put this back on the feed.
Sunday, that man might be a Academy Award winner.
The breakout star of the show right there.
Keep going.
Look at the fadeaways. I love it. Still for the culture.
I saw this thing on Facebook. It was the most funny thing. It's like I'm starting barking at white people who insert themselves. It makes me think I'm alone.
People in general.
I beat the mean. Okay.
Yo, but that's gonna keep you, keep your spirit intact. So really,
Okay. Just let out
Like,
bark instead of snacks.
instead of snapping, I'm gonna start doing that.
Yes. Alright.
They're like, oh my gosh, what's that's so funny, man. But yo,
He was another breakout star.
Mhm.
he really was.
Them thirst tweets were hilarious.
Keep going. These are just some of the movie posters.
Yeah.
Auntie Angie.
Oh, I know one thing that we didn't talk about with the women, with the Dora Milaje being wives in waiting.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
I read that.
They were originally, created to be wives in waiting, so they're not just fighting for the king, but they're actually waiting for the king, and one of them is promoted to being a wife.
But didn't he not see them like that though? At least T'Challa.
did, T'Challa.
Like, his whole view of them was.
T'Challa was like, oh, y'all fight cool.
For real.
I fight too, and Zuri, man. It's crazy.
Ramonda.
Yeah, sure is, though.
Mhm.
She's like Storm, like she could be Storm mama.
She probably, girl, this is crazy stuff.
Aurora. That's Storm's name, Aurora.
So I think I don't know if Storm if he would ever make an appearance because
I don't think so.
Fox used to own the right to X-Men. I think Disney just got those rights.
Just got them.
So it's probably going to be like when everything starts back over in another
Yeah.
10, 15 years is when they actually incorporate the X-Men.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
I think it's close.
Wasn't Storm like
Look at
married?
That's
Wasn't Storm like married or something, or in a relationship?
I think her and T'Challa were
relationship
married.
with her and Black Panther.
But see, that's why I think that
I like that picture.
Lupita's gonna be off of her. That's why I think Lupita's gonna challenge him, and then Storm gonna come and she gonna save him or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Then they gonna end up falling.
Y'all should
That's
watch
the last one.
BT and
They
online.
doing
They're
that
showing
Black
it.
Panther.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
That's
storyline
legit.
with Storm. Yeah, that's legit. That's the one the original husband wrote that has Storm burying T'Challa. So y'all should watch it.
I'm gonna check that
Y'all should watch it.
Yeah.
That's got Diamond Hansu playing Black Panther.
Really?
Yeah. So you got Amistad in Black Panther. Yeah.
How do you say his name?
It's Diamond.
Man,
Diamond Hansu. Yeah. I was like, man. You see how powerful it is?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. He almost looked like the Night King from Game of Thrones.
He almost look like Blade.
What? If you gonna get off this
That's
night,
all back to 92. He is a throwback to 92.
hey, look, Blade was almost your daddy.
You almost was the
Almost like him. Almost, but nah, they could have at least made him T'Chaka. The daddy. They could have made him T'Chaka. He been working so hard.
Take out.
That's why they need to make him T'Chaka. He needs
To
to
out. He need to be left to out.
Let's see that on his resume.
He need to be left out. He need to go
Nah, but he
watch
was
the
real
movie.
supportive though.
He did.
He
He was.
was real supportive.
That's cool.
That
Because
little
all he wanted was for it to happen,
that little picture, like I think one of the best things to come out of this movie is just the black joy, like you see
Yeah.
throughout the cast. Like they're always laughing, they're always smiling, they always look, they're like your cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
Hey, auntie, for
They
real.
are.
Hey, auntie.
Right.
And it's crazy how that line resonates with so
Let's
many
see.
people.
Keith said Storm was married to Black Panther.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
I'm gonna definitely have to check out that series on YouTube.
Yeah. They got it on their Facebook page there. Actually, you can watch it there.
That's why I saw that on Facebook.
It's also, I think it's also on Netflix.
On Netflix?
So,
What?
I want to say, hold on.
Right.
Dang, bro.
I want to say the cartoon version is on Netflix.
Right.
Okay. That's not a bad idea.
Storm was always one of my favorite X-Men though. Like her power was just so dope. It was so dope.
Yeah. She's Wakandan.
It's real.
Is she Wakanda?
I believe so.
She is for real.
Derica May says everyone drinks water apparently because that melanin was perfection.
Hey, so was Dr. Mays.
Doctor.
What's your vibranium?
I'm telling you.
That's what you gotta start saying to people. Celebrate that vibranium.
I'm telling you. Elevate that vibration.
Hey.
With the new handshake.
Hey.
Yay.
This was such a good movie, man. This was, like you said, this was the first time I enjoyed a movie in a while. Like, just sat there and enjoyed it the whole time.
And it's crazy, like even like the characters, like the non-black characters that were in there, they were just used to like supporting characters, and that's like that was the story and stuff, which is like such role reversal almost, you know.
And the dude Ross, he did good.
He did do good.
He played good. He played that part. That's important.
Alrighty, y'all. About 15 seconds. Bethany says yes, Derica.
I need to drink me some wine.
Now back to Melaninaire. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Hello. We are back. So we just ended our last segment talking about gender roles. And we were talking about, the roles that the different characters played and how that went into everything. And so now we want to go into actually the significance of the last fight. This was one of the things that I didn't even know until we were eating. I don't know, Mallory, if you remember this, when we were all having Toronto's for Chelsea's birthday.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there talking, and Mallory had said, I don't know if y'all noticed, but the last battle was on an Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Not only that, but while they were on the Underground Railroad, they were stripped of their powers.
Yeah.
So while they had to fight each other every so often, they would be stripped of their powers when when the train came through. Man. So tell me what y'all think about that. Let's unpack that real quick.
I mean, yo. So they've already had that first battle for the actual throne, and then T'Challa just pops back, up after being in the ice and everything.
And that fight for the throne was on top of a mountain.
Exactly. And then now they're underneath the earth. They're underneath the earth. Couple of things about being underneath the earth. Most times when you're underneath the earth, that's when you've died. That's even another level there. You're dead and you're dead and gone, and that's what we do when we say goodbye to our loved one. But the Underground Railroad itself, this is where Shuri had created the train system to where it actually levitated with vibranium. When we think back to our people as we were fighting for our freedom, same way as which, T'Challa and Eric were fighting for the freedom of our people, and they were trying to decide on how to do it. There's a big ideological battle going on right here in the Underground Railroad itself, and the symbolism of it actually being, underneath the earth is in a railroad, which symbolizes the freedom and the path and all that good stuff. But they also lost their power there. That they're no longer in charge and in power of that thing. So I don't know. It was really deep to me.
What else? What y'all think? What you think, Dominique?
I don't know. I think it's also cool that Shuri's invention is the one that saved T'Challa's life.
Yeah.
That like she is kind of was a hidden hero in fighting for Wakanda. But I think it's interesting because like you said, like the fate of Wakanda, like the fate of the whole world was decided in that mountain, and then at the end they kind of like came out and the sun was like setting. So it was I think the whole scene was meant to be transformative because they were like swallowed up by the earth, and they went in there and like everything was decided, and then they came back out,
Okay, and so as he's leading us into it, they came back out, and during the exchange that T'Challa has between Killmonger, they basically talked about, they had a moment where they talked about coming over here. They talked about, the basically that slave trade. And then Killmonger makes what does he say? He said it was better.
He said, bury me in the ocean with my ancestors.
Because it's better to live in, what was it? It's better to die than to live in bondage. So man, what does that mean, Killmonger?
I love that quote, but also something that I did have a problem with when people were celebrating and praising this movie, where they're like, yeah, it's not another slave narrative. And it's always like, it was almost like this anti-slave, like, narrative that people were talking about, like, oh, you know, like, that was a bad history. But we don't need to devalue those stories in any type of way. You know, like, yeah, it's a lot of bravery and dying and not want to sacrificing your freedom, but it was also a lot of bravery in those who persevered and those who came, and those stories. Like, slavery happened over hundreds of years. So how are we tired of those stories being told in the past few decades? Those stories should take hundreds of years to retell because they are so valuable and valid to who we are. And that's just as important. And that is just as resilient. And that is something to just be as proud of, because we're not descended from slaves. We're descended from enslaved people.
Yes. That's important to remember. That's important. There's a difference between slaves and enslaved people. You know, we were still a proud people. We were still living, you know, those circumstances were forced upon us. But, you know, we still persevered through all of it, even in getting here.
Even in
getting here.
You think about it, from what we're told, they stacked us on ships. Y'all stacked us on top of each other. We couldn't get up. We couldn't, if we had anything, we couldn't do nothing. So, I mean, you were put in the worst of the worst of the worst, you know, and you could not take yourself out of that, because if you did, you would have to do exactly what he said. You would have to bury yourself in that ocean. You know? But we survived through that. Like, everybody sitting at this table had somebody that was on that boat, that had somebody stacked on top of them or chained by their arm or by their leg, you know, with no, like, mouth, don't stop.
Yo.
But I mean, like, we survived that, y'all.
Yeah, for real.
Like,
And I think it was Dr. Branch who said last time. She said, you know, it happened, but we ain't there today. There's a reason. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason.
I don't believe we would let us go back there today.
Absolutely. It's like my grandmother, my great grandmother is still alive, and she just turned 97 in February. And she was raised by her grandmother. Her grandmother was a slave, was born toward the end of slavery, you know? And so, like, that's like, my family's only 2 generations removed. It's such, you know, it's such a history, and those are very ugly history. Those stories are very sacred, and they shape who we are and, like, our culture, you know, today. So, I think it's an amazing quote, but we shouldn't get lost in the sauce. Like, we shouldn't, you know?
True.
I hear you. So that was deep. That was, you know, that man.
2 generations removed from slavery, and we're millennials. And we're millennials. You know, makes you kind of put into perspective all of the things that we still strive for right now. To never forget those stories. Never let those pass, and continue to share those stories, regardless if you like them or not. It's our history.
And
it's our history.
And they do make us who we are. You know, they help us, they help shape us. And like you said, they help shape our culture, and they go into what it is that we do. You know what I'm saying? Because we won't forget. You know what I'm saying? We'll never forget, but we use it to make us better and to progress. So
we'll be back. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Melaninaire on KLEK 2.5 FM.
All right, y'all. You adjusted now.
For real.
You got to say something now.
You've been set and set.
Come on in. I'm waiting on her to come. She came to get us? Okay. Homework. A lot going on. I'm glad you read.
I'm glad to. Thank you very much.
Good addition to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
How long I gotta be? You came at the right time.
Well, we got some announcements. I had to take one of the songs out.
Okay. I got a song though.
Yeah, you got. We got announcements. Then we got this high five song before your break. Hello, Miss Morgan. How are you?
I'm great.
Now, where's that smile? You were walking here.
I know.
Again. You making me depressed.
No.
I need a smile from you. I need that. Come on now, you don't invited your buddy here. Didn't even tell me, but you know we're not gonna trip off of that. But he's been good. But now I need you to smile.
He didn't. You.
Oh, look at me.
I'm not mad. He's been a great asset to the show. I need you to
He was in
smile.
before all of us.
True.
Yeah.
We made it on
I'm
time.
sure the guest was very excited about it. He
Yeah,
was very
yeah, the guests got here for the regulars.
No. Was everybody else not on time? Like we
I
all
was on
came
time.
late.
No, we was on time.
All can't be late.
We was on time.
No, we were on time.
Here without
But no,
We were
That
outside.
nigga just got here before us.
but no, seriously, like I said at the beginning, like, don't come in 5 minutes before just because if y'all need show prep or something that you want to talk about or something you want me to load up, well, it's kind of hard to do if you only get 2 minutes and I gotta
We still alive.
on the camera. On there. But
I thought this was an iPhone.
But you know what?
oh, you need an iPhone charger?
About how,
I got you.
like the slave years.
You want me to charge this
and
up?
how,
Well, you know, it's been plugged in. It's charged.
like,
And you can just take this cord, plug it. You can plug that back up and just plug this into that USB slot.
the direction that we're going into now.
Mallory,
What's important with
you
that
just plug that into one of those
who is telling,
USB slots on that
who
thing.
is telling the
Charge your
narrative.
phone.
Because for the longest you have white directors or white people who are in charge of telling these stories. So I think that is what a lot of people are tired of. We are very like the storyline of most of these stories is. I think that is what people are tired of.
But so let me ask you this. What do you, because I didn't even know that Steven Spielberg was Color Purple.
And Quincy Jones.
So how does that, like,
Oh, was just getting
no, but for real, so how do you, like, how does that, like,
Yeah, I was
was that,
That was Walker. That was okay. Daniel Person was on there. I was
So-
watching that.
does that affect the way that we look at it?
No. Matter of fact, I think like Color Purple was like one of the blackest movies I watched growing up, and we had it on VHS, and we popped it in all the daggum time as a kid. I never looked at the fact that Steven Spielberg was white. Matter of fact, I think I was so excited that Color Purple was even a thing.
Yeah.
You know, from all of the language, like, you know, taking care to show Africa as beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, especially at a time where directors in Hollywood weren't paying attention to Africa as beautiful. They were making the black people savages. Man, I don't think so. But how does it feel for you now
See,
knowing
that's
that?
what I was about to say. I think it's a good thing. To
Yeah.
me. You know, I like saying that unity. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And like I said, I
No,
like
this is
seeing
water.
I like seeing that support.
You trying to get some hot water, Morgan?
Oh,
Oh, it's instant coffee.
Yeah.
I like seeing that supportive, like in Black Panther. You know
Yeah.
how you had Agent Ross and how he was that
You need
supportive role.
Morgan, you need some help making
You know
coffee?
what I'm saying?
Because I have no idea.
Because it didn't leave.
Let me finish this and I got you.
Leave it
Just a
out
second.
like white people don't exist. You know what I'm saying? And nobody exists but us. But it just showed it in the sense that like it's like basically it kind of summed up this post that I saw that said pro-black is not being anti-white.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what that was saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we have an all-black cast. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we want to see that black representation, but that doesn't mean that we want to just completely cut out everything else because this is America at the end of the day. And whether we like it or not, you know what I'm saying? We're going to see a lot of different people. And so that to show that, you know what I'm saying? And so like it does increase the you know what I'm saying, color I guess like the way my view of color purple. I mean I always like color purple, but it does, that's like man, that's dope, you know, and then another thing is like
That's why you like
to write Black Panther, that does show to me it shows his reverence of us. You know what I'm saying? And it showed because he put us on a pedestal. And it showed that like I mean, yeah, he was a white man and like I did hear the argument that yeah, well it was written by a white man, blah blah. But it showed reverence. Like it truly to me, like Black Panther, it truly shows
So you don't like that
he
strong?
had a reverence. You know what I'm saying? For us as a people. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
And that's important to acknowledge as well that, you know, a lot of times when our stories are told, and they're told by, you know, white directors and things, they don't take the time to reverence the people. You know, they don't take the time to actually reverence the story outside of the struggle as well.
Right.
You know, it's always painted from one lens, and with Jack Kirby and what Stan Lee did, they took the time to actually humanize someone and actually show the, you know, just the whole multiple dimensions of who they are as a person and the culture, and took the time to build a culture like Wakanda. Wakanda, they built this.
It was constructed, and it was built so well
Like
that
this?
you can't tell me it don't exist.
Yeah.
It's somewhere, you know what I'm saying?
No sugar.
Okay.
Botswana.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah.
The Congo rainforest. It's somewhere.
Yeah.
It's somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And the thing is, you know,
just
once
how they
again,
created, how they wrote it.
you had black characters before Black Panther that were heroes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Morgan, what about you?
And we,
Okay.
they recognized it. Jack Kirby recognized it. And not only that, they were relatable.
Yep.
They weren't this, you know, caricature, like, you know, like somebody's just out there looking like, I don't know, Jim Crow Danny or somebody, you know, Jim Crow Danny out there just jumping around saving black folks. You know, but what I'm saying is like it made it real. It made it real. It didn't make them as if they were a black character doing white things.
Man, let me
They
get
were
some
a-
paper towels.
It was a real human.
Okay, so
Living, breathing. You know, it's a real society.
That's also why I really like. Have you guys seen Underground? It was on WGN.
WGN, yes.
It was produced by John Legend.
Yeah.
And so it's a story about like slaves and like their escape like throughout the Underground Railroad. But it's so good. Journey Smollett is in there.
What's my favorite action?
She plays a role of she's actually the master's daughter. He had a daughter with one of his house slaves, and she falls in love with Noah, his field hand. And they end up running because the overseer tries to rape her.
How does he treat her though?
Who?
Her father. How does he treat
He
her?
doesn't acknowledge the fact that it's her daughter. He just lets her stay in the house. It's just her house lady. And it's all, but the breakout character of the show to me is Steen. Steen is Journey Smollett's mother in here, and she's the one that's like used things to like kind of like get a better life for her children, or what she thought was a better life for her children. But that's later explored in the show, and it also shows like how those relationships were never consensual. Because even though it seemed that she consented, it was a power imbalance, and she knew that to get a quote unquote better life, what she had to do. So it's a really, really good show. It's a really, really good show.
Yeah, and that's Underground.
Underground. It's all.
All right, 20 seconds, y'all.
The liberation of the black woman.
Okay, where'd you guys at?
And that's you. You gonna take it?
All right, Morgan, so you good now?
Chelsea, you gonna introduce it?
All right, y'all. Back at it. We're back at it, y'all.
Now back to Melaninaire. KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, guys, and we are back. So we left up the last hour, just kind of speaking about the significance of the last fight. And with the significance of the last fight, we are going to bring us up into our next portion of the show, where we're going to talk about the liberation of the black woman.
Hey, liberation.
Liberation of the black woman, you all. We spoke a little bit briefly earlier about what, to me, is what ended the fight. What stopped the fighting, what made everything cease, is when we had Okoye and give it to me, what's his name? Wakabi. He said, Daniel, sorry. He said, you would kill me, my love. In the midst of all of these things going on around them, he said, you would kill me, my love. And she told him, for Wakanda. And I think there, first of all, she liberated herself for him to see that she needed to be liberated, because she told him, yeah, I'm gonna get you with this little vibranium sword. So you
A few
get
times.
your life, get your boys, and tell them to calm down, because the rhino didn't lick my face. You're just gonna have to calm down here, because I'm on a liberation train. I need you to come with me. So he did what is one of the most highest and honorable things to do. He bowed to her. No, excuse me. He dropped his weapon, and then he bowed to her. So let's just kind of break that down and tell me what you guys think about that. Do you think that liberation of the black woman, do you think that it starts there, does it end there, is it in between? How do you guys feel about that?
The movie, I think, had a lot of parallels between the African American community, or as far as black people right now, and in the movie, the role of women and men. So the women carried Like they were the strength of the movie. They were the backbone. So we see that as well in the Black community. But like when T'Challa, when he was murdered, and you had the new king come, and she was even still willing to fight for Wakanda, even though it was in the hands of a very dangerous man. So I think that that is very similar to what has happened within our own community, where you have a lot of people that have been leading us, a lot of males that have been leading us for a very long time, and we have still been the backbone of the community. And whichever way, whoever's choosing to lead, we're going to follow, even if that doesn't mean that it's in the best interest for us.
I mean, and even, even in present day America, Black Lives Matters was started by women.
Three black women.
Three black women. And the fact that, when we talk about, the persons, the people that have died, we have to come up with hashtags saying "say her name," because of the fact that we're not even recognizing the black women that have died, the black girls that have died. We automatically take the point of, what we're gonna recognize, young man here, young man there, but we have to say her name when recognizing what the black women are doing and the contributions of black women. So you're right about that, in that we have these movements, and the black men are elevated to the forefront, but the black women still continue to hold it down and still continue to lead, whether it's from the background or from the front. But oftentimes you don't necessarily see them often celebrated and recognized for their strengths.
I mean, if you look at the movie, the warriors, they were the warriors. The women were the warriors. They didn't have male warriors. There wasn't no boys, no males in there standing with them with their head shaved too. Like, no, and they were all women. So did you guys ever think about that? That like you had the Jabari tribe come and but for them, they had these women, and they,
Yeah.
We didn't forget about the women Jabari tribe though either, because remember when the Jabari tribe came.
Yeah, that's right.
I also think it's really interesting that why does his name keep escaping me? Wakabe. Because I wasn't feeling him. I was not feeling him.
That's why.
I think it's interesting, he called the rhinos in on them and then like had them circled around in the corner, like y'all telling Okoye and them that they need to drop their weapons. Then all of a sudden, when they're face to face, he's a dissident. She's like, "What are you gonna do this to me?" So I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think that, Dominic? What are your thoughts on right now being a right time to work on the African American community and Black people as a whole in the deconstruction of patriarchy?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that look for us? Because we are very much the man leads. But I don't think that starting out, that's not who we started out as. The women were always leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? What does that look like in the future for us right now in working towards deconstructing that?
I think that I didn't mean that.
No, you got something to say?
I think that in a way it's already being deconstructed, and I think just like how we're living in I equate it to the Renaissance day, how we're living in one but we don't really realize it. You know what I'm saying? And like the deconstruction comes with the fact that Black women is the single largest demographic of newfound businesses over the last few years. Black women are the single leading demographic for degrees, earned degrees, bachelor's, master's, and doctors for us, for African Americans. And that's a thing, so in reality, we like to create, in my opinion, we've created something and we've said that we have this patriarchal structure, but we really don't. In a way, we do. I ain't gonna say we don't. I say we do, but what I mean is that like now, the way that it's progressing, where it's like we will like what you're saying, how that goes on into us moving. I firmly believe that like Black women are taking the initiative, and there's nothing that like. Well, so the point I'm making is that like at this point, there's nothing like to me.
No, y'all keep going. I'm just looking at time.
So like, when we look at the structure of patriarchy, right? And so I watched a documentary about the Black Panthers. And so to your point, like how the Black Panthers were led by women, but were led by men. And basically the documentary from these women's perspective, and they were talking about there was two women and they had this argument. They were sitting there and one woman was saying that no matter what happens, basically she was a quiet. She said no matter what happens, you know, if he leads us, we're gonna follow. We're gonna do whatever he says, whatever he tells us to do, because he is the man, and what comes ahead is the black struggle, not the woman struggle, but the black struggle. The other lady said, I disagree. You know what I'm saying? She said that I think that we should incorporate, we should look at it going ahead. You know what I'm saying? So we shouldn't look at it as two different struggles going into one struggle. She said that we should start right now looking at it as we are in the struggle together. So she was like, if we're gonna sit here and have this meeting, then he can't just stand up here and tell us what to do. You know what I'm saying? Because he is not all that makes up this community. And so basically what I'm saying is that, like, if you were to ask me, if you were to get 10 business owners, no matter where you go in America, and you were to say, I need 10 black business owners, I'm not going to consider you legit if you don't have most women in that. Because the truth of the matter is more black women own businesses than men. You know what I'm saying? And so if you look at it, like, if you have to be actual, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at it, like, if a male continues to hold that structure, then it's almost like it's a fault. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're holding on to something that's not the case. So for a male to say that a woman can't do, it's not the case because all the numbers prove what they can. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get the point I'm trying to make? Like we're saying, like,
I've had the pleasure to give back, protect,
like,
serve my community. Now I want to let you know.
It's hard to explain what I'm saying, but like when you hear, like, for a male or for anybody to support a patriarchal structure is literally a lie. Like it's hard to support that. You know what I'm saying? And so like, and the reason is because of the facts.
But you have a lot of men of color who are not aware of those things, and who are just simply a product of this structure that has been in place. So when you start talking about the rates of domestic violence that black women suffer from, like all of that violence, because we are so strong-willed and we're expected to be meek and something that we are not, you cannot, it's not enough to say that, okay, it's a different time and this is what the facts say. And yes, we are ahead when it comes to owning businesses and being educated, but you still cannot take away from, we still have a lot of people who are still in that mindset that we are beneath men and that's how we should be treated. So how do we begin to combat that?
All right, y'all get ready to come back?
Each one.
Okay. You said what?
Yeah, that ties into making Wakanda a reality.
Yeah. So you can just go ahead and say it.
Who's gonna bring us back in?
And then I just let you finish. I'll hand it to you.
And now back to Melaninaire on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Hey, we are back, and we're just continuing the conversation that we were having basically about the role of men and women in society at right now, like currently, but in particular black women. And so Dominique was finishing that. I'm sorry.
No problem. So Morgan brought up this topic, this conversation about like patriarchy in the black community and how it's affecting the black woman. And Dante was telling us about how black women are the majority of the businesses. They're starting businesses at a higher rate and faster rate than any other ethnic group, and they also are the most educated. But we can't take black women's excellence and like their ability to thrive under this pressure and be like, okay, here's proof that patriarchy is no longer exists or is diminishing, you know, because that doesn't equate. Like they are amazing and they have continued to thrive under this pressure, but there is still extreme amounts of patriarchy even from our own people, and that's a very unfortunate instance. And I think that when Morgan was talking about like the rates of like domestic violence and I think it goes back to what we were talking about with gender roles. Like, we have tried to put ourselves in this European structure of what a family means. We have tried to put ourselves since slavery, the man is the household. But even in slavery, like the man, I believe that patriarchy was placed in the black community to further enslave us. Because if you teach black people that the man is the head of the family and he's supposed to protect his family, but he's literally in a position where he cannot protect his family, imagine the discord that puts in that household. And that's explored in fences, that's explored in Raising in the Sun, because you always have this black man who's always, he literally puts his foot, the weight of the world is on his shoulders, but then he puts his foot on the neck of his family. And so now they have his weight and the weight of the world on top of them. And so you have characters like the son in Fences or the sister in A Raisin in the Sun, I can't think of the names right now, who are usually vilified and demonized because they dare to speak up and speak back. And then there's usually the older matriarch of the family who comes and puts them in their place, and like, you have to respect him because he has this type of struggle. And that's patriarchy.
Yeah.
That's allowing him to get away with this abuse and this trauma and this anti-black womanness, and using the excuse because the world has been beating him up. And I think that's where a lot of our patriarchy comes from. And we're so forgiving of black boys. Even Michelle Obama said it. We raise our daughters, but we baby our sons, and that carries a lot of weight. And that's true in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. The patriarchy. I get like I guess the point that I was making is that like when black women do these things under all of those stresses, that's the deconstruction. You know what I'm saying? Because like that still exists, and I agree with that. I was raised by all black women. You know what I'm saying? And so by association, I had to deal with things I had to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Because my mom was in the military, and she was affected by not being a male. You know, really the biggest thing that affected her was that she wasn't a male, because she was just as smart as anybody. But she will also tell you that she didn't take that. And she did not let that stop her. And that there is, and the biggest thing that me and my mom always talk about is that there is a patriarchal structure in anything, and it permeated and it followed her all of her life. But like the way that she changed that was by seeing black women in these positions and seeing black women struggle, be under those pressures, but still not let that get them. And no one can argue that black women had it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all had it harder than anybody else. But to see y'all bound that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That deconstruction right there, that is deconstructing that. You know what I'm saying? And that goes, to me, that leads into something. And so it does. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, and it does exist. And that is very true. But the way that black women have fought it is what I admire. Because black women didn't have to bare knuckles with anybody. Black women didn't have to be violent with anybody. And the way that they did it is the way that to me, in my opinion, is what T'Challa took from it, and how he went about it. He had to have a black woman to help him see that. And I know we talked about Killmonger doing that, but it was a black woman. The kid planted that seed. Okoye helped cultivate that seed, and his mom and Shuri, all those people, those are what cultivated him. You know what I'm saying? And so they deconstructed patterns that we already saw. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't even notice that deconstruction was happening. So by the time that we sit here and talk about how Shuri did all of this, where you know what I'm saying? And that's all that I was saying, is that progression, and then knowing where y'all came from and what y'all had to do and where y'all are, that's what makes me proud to look ahead. And that's what I meant by saying that, like, where we are now and when we look ahead, that's what makes me happy, because y'all had to stress so hard.
I definitely agree with that. But I don't think that their accomplishments actually deconstruct the patriarchy. Like, yeah, like it shines through it and they defeat that system. But I think me and you, like, as black men, we should take a lot of responsibility. We should be the ones deconstructing it, because we shouldn't put the onus of oppression on those being oppressed. And so, yeah, while they're breaking free, I think it's the people who are imposing the patriarchy who should be the ones to dismantle it.
Okay, you all. So in closing, I just want to go around and get one thing from you all, one way to you all that we can make Wakanda a reality. How can we continue to thrive and make and build our own Wakandas here?
Education.
Yeah.
Education.
Yeah, each one teach one.
Yeah.
You know, you can't change the world with all of us. You know, they better said it the other night. You know, it's gonna take one of us at a time. Create that ripple in that ocean.
Y'all know me. That's a responsibility. says, we all gotta take ownership of being black, period. Don't matter where we're from, because we all don't know. Take ownership and responsibility.
Unity. I think unity is the biggest thing. Like we are constantly bickering back and forth and getting caught up on things that hinder us from moving forward on petty things, opposing views and whatnot, that we don't focus on the bigger picture, which is as a whole moving forward as a community. So unity is a big thing.
Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
I think dismantling those gender roles.
All right. Well, we thank you guys for tuning in today. Be sure to tune in next week.
Hey.
And this is Kate, LEK, 102.5 FM.
This is a question for you.
Okay.
So, do you know how there's like, when we talk about the topic about white men, usually everyone's idea of Jesus and God is important in white men.
British Prime Minister
And how
Theresa May has set out
destructive that can be for a person that does not look like that, a black person. Like, we know why those kind of things are in place. With that